What's up, y'all? What's going on? Good to see y'all again. We're back another week of college football, and another episode of Just Talking Ball. Texas Jayhawk here, as always, and I always got my boy Eric Foster in the building. Good to see you, E. What's going on,
Well,
man?
good to be seen.
Yeah, that is very much true. That is very much true. Another week of college football is rolling. We're right in the meat, in my opinion, of things. Where a lot of things are going to be decided, record wise, conference wise, upsets, wins you're supposed to win, maybe not winning the way you're supposed to win. Committee's going to really start keeping an eye on things, in my opinion, even though it's a 12-team playoff. I know a lot of that doesn't matter, but still maybe in the top tier, 1 through 4, seeding bye weeks, those type of guys, style points, and the way you beat teams matter,
Yep.
the guys that they know that they're going to be in for sure. So, I think, this is what, week 8? This is week 8,
It
week
is, and I
9.
think we
Yeah.
get our first. I think we get our first committee look next week,
Yeah.
next Tuesday to be exact. So,
Wow. So yeah. So lots going on. November is
the
here,
second most
basically.
important thing to happen on Tuesday. If you have
Yeah.
not, go vote.
Yeah. We don't push politics, but you know what? We're all citizens, and we all have a civic duty, and need to go out there and at least just have your voice heard either way. We're not sitting here pressing either way, and that would be a great segue, and we're gonna just roll right into that and just see what's on the agenda for today. We've got a new little segment called Just Talking Bad Ball, and that was, just perfect. We're gonna always talk about what we're mad about. I am just mad, but we'll get into that. And then we'll, recap the Kansas State game and the Texas Vanderbilt game. We'll get into some chalk talk and then predictions, and we'll look back on how we did last weekend in some of our picks. So I'm just gonna go right into it. So right here, we're talking about just talking bad ball, and you won't know until we start. I'm gonna let Eric talk about his segment or his part of just talking bad ball.
So, we won't stray too far into politics,
Yes.
but my whole thing is, if you're going to show up, if you're going to put it out there, you have to stand on business, no matter which side of the spectrum you stand on. You got to stand on business. So shout out to the Texas Tech kicker.
And we have that for you guys right here. But go ahead, E. Just go ahead.
They run this fake great play, incredible play. And then there's an element of front running here, right? You wait till you do something great, and then MAGA, that's cool. Everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, but then you follow it up. You miss the extra point. You miss the game-winning field goal. Your team loses by 1,
Exactly.
and now you're the story. Now you're the show, and so if you're gonna jump in that moment, if you're gonna overshadow your teammates, then you got to be about the moment. Same way with Joey Bosa, right? Interrupted a moment that was not his, which
No
is
doubt.
crazy to me.
No doubt.
You interrupt a moment which is not his, which is and you kind of I hate a person that throws a rock and hides their hand, right? You make this statement and then you take the hat off, you go into the press conference, and you're like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, no, you have to.
You did it.
You have to stand on business.
And like I say, you say we're not saying, we're in a country where you're free to vote and choose how you please. But if you want to go deeper into it, like you say, just to piggyback off you, it wasn't your moment, and you have a job. It was against NFL policy to do that anyway, and he knows that. And a lot of these guys are ballers. He's the big time player and taking nothing away from his ability. He's making a lot of money. So
and you introduced the moment. I get that, and everyone's beliefs are their beliefs, and you can hold whichever beliefs you want to. And I feel like if you do things the right way and you keep things to yourself, like, nobody has the right to make you, declare your beliefs or have any kind of conversation that you don't want to have.
Yeah.
But once you introduce that moment, I'm a huge Law and Order fan, right? So once you say that wrong thing or what, now we can introduce all this other stuff, and you have to have those conversations. You have to stand on that. So now Texas Tech is, and you think about these things, and it's a bad look for the team. It's a bad look in that moment. And I know I am telling you, I've heard this verbatim. Coaches do not love politics in the locker room. They certainly don't love it on national television, because it only complicates things, no matter where you fall on the spectrum, it only makes everybody's life a little bit more difficult. Until
Unnecessary.
we until we celebrated it earlier in the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until we get back to a point of civility where we can have those conversations and talk to one another
and respect both sides.
I think, you know, it's best that people just be who they are. But if you put it out there, like I said, I'm a kind of person, if I say something, I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to defend it, and I'll talk about it as long as you want to talk about it.
And you're right. And you're like that. And it became not only, and let's be real. Let's just be real about it. Okay, you did that. That's fine. But now you put the microscope on you, and now you look like a buffoon because now you did that because it's like, oh, I can't wait till I have this moment. You do that. But then you know what? You forgot to do your job and ultimately let your team down. And now the coach has to make it not just about talking about how the game went, but also talking about this kicker that, you know, did this and, you know, brought more attention to himself. And I even read about, you know, Coach McGuire speaking on and said, you know, they've addressed it. They are going to handle it internally. You know, it's ongoing. And then he ends it off saying, you know, but hey, make sure you go out and vote. You know, so he does a great job of, you know, putting a positive spin on it, which who wouldn't, you know, because we are in America and that is the democracy. And, you know, so, I mean, but you're right. 100%. I totally 100% agree with you. You know, there's no place for that. And they talk about it, you know, what's one of those unspoken rules, or it's spoken a lot, but it's not like etched in stone. When you're at parties, when you're at certain interaction or certain things, what's the two things you don't talk about? You know, politics and religion, you know, and so, you know, it just, they're young.
It's like taking a half court shot with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. You can take the shot. You better make it though.
Yeah.
If you take the shot and you miss, that's the story. Not that you took the shot. It was that you took the shot and missed. So it's not that he supports a candidate.
And because it's very low percentage. Right. It's very low percentage, you know, but yeah. So yeah. And so mine's is some, and these are not no secrets, but you know, let me tell you something, being a coach, and when you draw attention to yourself just like that, you better, like say, be able to stand on it or come through with it. So I had two to choose from. You mentioned one, but I'm going to address that later. But obviously, we all saw the ending of the Washington Commanders Chicago Bears game. And Chicago, historically, you know, they need a win. And, you know, like I say, the guy said, you need to lock in for 60 minutes, not 59 minutes and, you know, 46 seconds or whatever. And this guy, you know, does this taunt. And that's part of it. And you do that, but not only did you draw attention to yourself by taunting the crowd, you were the guy that tipped the ball to the receiver, Noah Brown, who's an ex-Cowboy. But, I mean, you know, I mean, so you just – it's those things, man, that we've gotten so caught up in. You know, you're trying to create a moment for social media, or what are you doing? Because you're a professional. You're a professional. And anything can happen in the NFL. Anything can happen in football, period. But like as a professional, you are held to a higher standard. You're getting paid to do this. This is your job. Absolutely. And when you're out there, yeah, and it's still fun, but like, dude, you know, you're out there taunting, and then you nonchalantly walk over there, and then you put yourself in the position to make the play, and then what? You know,
and you don't.
Egg on your face. And so now, once again, like we said, that becomes the story, not, oh, this rookie makes a great play, which that was the story, but now the Chicago Bears have a letdown.
And you've been in a pro locker room, so kind of tell us what is that Monday like?
Dude, I'm telling you,
film session. What is that film session like when they cut that particular clip?
I think it differentiates between the style of coaching, your position coach, because I remember being, when I was in California, I remember being in the team meeting room, and the head coach would always publicly list the fines. And so the first thing I'm thinking, like, they need to fine his ass. Like, you know, if I'm a head coach, like, that is a letdown. Whatever the fine falls under, I'm gonna fine you. But I think after the emotions calm down, you cost the game, which in NFL, every game matters, you know. So I think it's if you're a vet, I think the conversation is one way and you've done well. But if you're a rookie or if you're a bubble guy, I think that conversation is different. So let's take, for instance, you're a bubble guy. He's getting ripped. He's getting undressed. He is getting told everything about him. There was a rookie, Tim McDuffie. If that's his name? McDuffie. I think he was a receiver either from Iowa or Penn State. Golly, it's been some years. Well, we was in training camp with the Raiders, and he hadn't practiced for like the first week and a half. He had a hamstring or whatever. So we go into that part of camp, the middle second week, and he's out there in one-on-ones and he's doing these fresh legs and he's out there taunting and doing all this. So the coaches in the meeting room, he's like, look at this old rank. He called him like OJ McJackson. He made like a name. He's like, you out here taunting your teammates and you got fresh legs. You ain't practice all day. I mean, he rips his ass because it's a way to do things. It's, in NFL, there's a way to practice. There's a way to carry yourself. Everything is under evaluation. And so, yeah, obviously we know, like, kids may not see that, say, hey, oh, I beat you. Well, you don't think about, I'm 8 practices in, right. I done worn my legs out. I done ran however many, and then you come off fresh legs trying to showboat and clown me. And it's like, so I'm going to I'll remember the name by the end of the show. But yeah, so, I mean, I think the world we live in now, because my old school thinking, like, I'm going to rip this kid. It's going to be a lesson, but it's going to be a lesson to where you never want to do nothing like that again, and have fun. But you got to take care of business first. And like I say, that conversation, like you say, in an NFL locker room, I think it goes 2 ways. Let's say that was Charles Woodson. What Charles Woodson has done over his career. It's really more of a, I can't believe Woodson let that happen type convo. It'll be, dude, you're a vet, future Hall of Fame. How could you let that? It's really that conversation and that type of tone, like, coach, I won't let it happen again. Boom, that's the end of it. Now, if you're, like, say, a rookie bubble and I've had to get on you by being in position all week, and then you pull this and you're the one to hit it and you didn't box out or you wasn't the knockdown guy, then it's a whole different level of profanity, accountability, and just, so then that's just the way it is. But like say, in high school, yeah.
I say, yeah, that's my kind of meat.
Yeah, that's it, and I mean, I've seen it on both sides. I mean, undressed. But yeah, so that was our new little segment of just talking bad ball. That was bad ball. And I will reference this again when we recap the game. So, but yeah, so now moving on, and it kind of feeds into, what are you mad about? I'm gonna go first because I am mad. I've been mad all day. I don't have a particular reason. I do have a reason. People aren't honest with themselves about what they're mad. I'm mad. I am mad about the way the football season is going for the people that I care about, the teams that I care about. I am mad as hell about it, and it affects my everyday life. Not to where I don't know how to deal with people, but it's just because we're just so close, and it makes you so mad. And all the trash talking and all the mess, you got to take it. You got to take it on the chin. You can't say, "Oh, we this," because nobody cares about your team. All you look at to see your team won this week. No, but y'all sorry, y'all 2-6. What can I say? Except you want to step outside and fight, or you ain't never played with your sorry. I mean, I don't want to go there. I'm trying to, you got to say, when they go low, we go high, so I know you don't.
They go low, that's I go to hell. Yeah. Let's get it.
Yeah, so let's get it. I think, like I say, and I can appreciate that. And I love that, but just I try not to, you've been in a situation with me. I said, because I played, when I put myself in that position, I'm putting myself on that level with someone that's never even strapped it on, so like,
right.
You know how to govern yourself accordingly. You can read the room. Some people can't, some people cannot read the room. So that's what I'm mad about. What you mad about, E?
Everything. It's one of those days, it's something in the air. The air's changing. My allergies acting up, man. But in reality, football related, what I'm mad about, and I knew that we talked about this offline, and I knew this would happen, is I knew there would be a time in the season where other fan bases would express themselves, and it just wouldn't be a thing. And I didn't expect it to come literally the next week. But Ohio State fans throwing beers and cheeses and waters on the field, literally interrupting play. I think a trainer got hit in the head. Like it was, one could argue, maybe even more egregious than what happened in the university in the outcome, right? Because somebody got hurt potentially, but because you're the University of Texas, because you have that magnifying glass, because it's the game, going into it potentially, game of the year type candidate, not only did we not, give Ohio State, which is absolutely on, I don't even know that it's fair to Ohio State to call them on par with Texas. based on, what they've done in the last 10 to 15 years. So, but at a minimum, absolutely should be held to the same standard, if not a better one. No segments on ESPN, no talks, no nothing. And not only that, when I did hear it reference post game, hell, they were blaming Texas. They did it because they saw Texas do it. No, they did it because kids are kids and fans are fans, and nobody likes feeling cheated in the biggest moment of their season. But I kind of knew this would happen, and taking it back to the Joey.
You wanted that same energy. You want
I
that same
want
energy.
the same energy,
You want
and
that
I
same
think
energy.
that's what also goes back to what makes me upset about the Joey Bosa thing is not that he did it. You are grown, that you are an American. You can do what you want to do. I just want the same energy. I want the same consequences. At a minimum, I want the same questions. Right? I want the same conversations that we had about Colin Kaepernick. I want the same conversations that we had about just the issue of players being able to express themselves and their views around issues that are important to them. And that was like a wide thing. And now it's just like, we don't want any trouble, And but I have told you this, and I think the real byproduct of it is not that people are like, oh, well, because I'm this political affiliation, they don't hold us to the same standard. No, it's the people. And I will say, and I've told you this, I have always been the type of person, I am a big reactor. I'm a big reaction, big emotion person. And because I see it work, right? I see coaches that work the refs. I see them get the favorable calls. Bill Self, I have watched both as a fan and as an opponent. He is one of the best. He works the refs the whole game. And in those crucial 50-50 moments, where do you think the call goes? They don't want to hear that. They don't want Bill Self in their ear. They don't want to hear the fans. They don't. So when you have, one side,
Coach Smokey's another one,
right? When you have folks that are so loud, so vocal, people just tend to say, it's not even worth it. It's not even worth the expression or the backlash that comes with it. So we're just going to avoid it. And I don't like it. I don't think it's right. So as a Texas fan, I'm pissed because at a minimum, same questions, same energy. I didn't hear no questions about is Ohio State a disgusting fan base? You don't hear, and they're the exact same people, by the way, just while we're on the topic, right? They're talking about running Ryan Day out of town.
Yep.
Right. And if Ryan Day loses this Saturday or loses in the last Saturday of the year, they're talking about running him out of town. And he's only lost 4 games in 5 years?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, probably 4 games in 5 years. Did they go undefeated? No, because he had to beat Michigan.
So 5
or 6 in the last 5 years. Yeah.
First of all, he averages 12 wins a year. Yeah. Let me attack it from the opposite end.
Yeah.
You're firing a guy that
always in the conference championship.
That averages 12 wins a year, always in the conference championship. I don't believe he's missed a playoff yet. I could be wrong on that. If so, it's not more than one. But and Texas does the same thing. Oh, we're coach killers. We this, that. They ran Jim Tressel off because he didn't think it was a bad idea for his kids to get autographs, ignored all of the baggage that came with Urban Meyer, right? So we're talking about the same kind of fan base. We're talking about arguably maybe even a worse one, and they just don't get the same energy.
It's either a problem or it's not. It's either,
and that's me. That's where I'm at with it. Something is either I tell you this all the time. We talk about it in many a context, but I'm one of those guys. You make the rules. I don't care which rules you make. You make them, I'll play by them, and I'll play to them. So as long as we're all playing the same game, and I don't feel like we're playing the same game.
Yeah, and that is a whole nother, and that's layers to that Pandora's box because, everybody thinks that their point of view is the right one. Everybody thinks that historically, however their football life or their football history has gone, it should be this way. And opposed, it's crazy, man. And and the reason we know so much about what people may feel and think, is because life has changed as far as technology and social media. Because it's right now news. It's like I say, back in the 90s, you didn't know what was going on in North Dakota State. You didn't know what was going on in Ohio State until you read it in the newspaper the next day, or unless you have a relative up there and they called and they gave you just their perspective of it.
And
But
you probably
now,
still didn't have all the palace intrigue, right?
Exactly.
This coach is on the hot seat. This coach don't get along with this booster. And all. Those things. And I'm all for it. I think it adds layers to the game, and I think that's why college football will, always be just as, if not more popular or more beloved than pro football, because people have these big, deep emotional attachments to it. We both talk about, I'm a Colts fan, you're a Cowboys fan. If Kansas wins and the Cowboys lose, you're probably still okay. Texas wins, the Colts lose, I'm all right.
Yeah.
But if it flips, Kansas loses, Cowboys win.
I know.
I'm certainly not okay.
Yeah, it's hard to articulate or to really put into words the feeling and the anger, frustration. It's it's bad. But and that just lends to what you said. You're dead on with that. But while we're on emotions and while we're on, might as well just roll right in to your boys. They got back on the in Memphis, or Nashville, should I say, against those fan favorite Vanderbilt Commodores. So tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. I mean, obviously, I know you wasn't there, but I know you watch with a close eye every single play. So tell me what you thought about the Horns.
As I told you, our fans showed up and showed out. It felt, you hear the team and the staff thanking the fans and remarking that it felt like a home game.
You said it. You called it.
And I called it, and I knew we would. That's what we do. That's what we do in a regular stadium when their fans actually show up. And so I knew we would do that in a Vanderbilt scenario. But first off, credit to Vanderbilt. They are who they were billed to be, in the sense that they were going to be a tough team that believed, and you were going to have to go and take it from them. This play, I can't express the frustration I had on that particular play, because you had a spy on him, right? You had a spy on him. You just took a really bad angle, and you still let him get loose. And I thought that in my head, I was like, what are some of the things that could go wrong that could, make this game more difficult than it needed to be? I said early turnovers in the red zone, giving them easy scores. What did we do? Early turnover in the red zone, gave them an easy score, right? So then they, so you could tell Vanderbilt, started to play with a little bit of belief, but Texas did what Texas needed to do, in the sense of you kind of impose your will.
Yeah. My roster's better than your roster.
Our roster's better than your roster. I give credit both ways on this to Vanderbilt's defensive staff and Texas's offensive staff. Texas started saying, okay, you're going to play off. We're going to throw short. We're going to go one-on-one. We're going to make you press up. And Vanderbilt said, no, you're not. We're going to keep everything in front of us. And Texas stuck with it and went on to score 3 straight possessions. Quinn went after that turnover, which was not his fault, by the way.
That was the tip. Was that the tip where the guy caught it?
Yeah, that was the tip. So, went on to, I think he went 17 for 17 after that. So, really locked in and dialed into the game plan. You wanted to call this game an escape, right?
Because I was going to say that if you just looked at the score,
right,
and like maybe the highlight is saying they kicked the onside to possibly get it back, but Texas recovered. And if you just see that in that context, it's like, damn, they played them like Texas barely got out of there.
Watching the game, and we talked about this afterwards, watching the game, I felt like I never felt like we were in danger of losing, right? And we talked about the time and score situation at the end of the game. And I said, as long as we don't give them the ball back with at the time when they got the ball back on the final possession, they were down 10. And I said, as long as we don't give them the ball back with, any more than 4 minutes, because Vanderbilt's only built one way, right?
Yeah.
They're not built to throw it around the yard.
And they play to their strengths. Yeah.
And they play to their strengths.
Uh-huh.
So I said, if we could control the clock and give it back to them in a limited scenario, then you put the ball in the hands of special teams. And if you believe that Nick Saban knows what he's talking about, he calls Texas's Jeff Banks the best special teams coach in the country, right? So you feel secure in how the game's going and just your ability to execute. And that's, as a Texas fan, I can tell you that's some growth for us. I hated that throw, by the way. It was a great throw, and you got to give credit to greatness. But in real time, I was like, okay. But that told me something, right? I hated the throw because you almost put the ball in danger, but that told me early on what I wanted to see, that he was playing with confidence.
That's it.
Right.
Yep.
And if you're not confident, you don't throw that ball. So you take what comes with that confidence. So no, it's a good effort all around. It's a top 25. People want to poo-poo it, and you can do that if you want to, but a top 25 win in that SEC on the road, I'll take it any way that I get it.
And every year is different. And Vanderbilt does have a little more respect. That's a different win against this year's Vanderbilt than compared to if y'all would have been in the SEC in the past and beat up on winless Vanderbilt, or 1-5, or 1-8, right. Whatever.
But you're talking about what might end up being, looking at their schedule. They're going to have to steal one on the road, but you're talking about what could be 8-4, 9-3 Vanderbilt team.
Yeah, and that's crazy,
right? And that's crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Only because the conference they're in won't even have a sniff at the playoff, but
correct.
Yeah,
correct. So
the conference that they're in.
A 9-win team in the best conference in the country on the road, top 25 win. Hell, I don't care what nobody say. You just keep winning, and you keep getting on. We're headed into the bye week this week, so you always look at what do you need to get better at. One, we need to pick up the blitz better. We're starting to see kind of cracks again along the offensive line when they stunt or there's like a really late motion. And that's what you hate. That's what you hate about like the Georgia game, beyond just the losing. They put some really good film. Mm-hmm. And now you start to see other teams implement those things that you did poorly. So I expect when we get back from the bye week, I expect Florida. If Florida is not blitzing or running stunts on the D line every single play in that game, it's probably coaching malpractice, because you've seen Texas struggle with it too much. And you've got to show me that you got better. But Kyle Flood is one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. So if anybody can fix this problem, you got Steve Sarkisian, you got a veteran Quinn Ewers, so you expect to be able to pick those things up. Defensively, it's probably, I don't know. In basketball, you can always find something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's the same in football when you're coaching statistically the best defense in the country, where you go and find those improvements in a bye week. I know in basketball, I can always chart the missed rebounds. I can always find missed layups. You can always find things that even in a wide margin game.
Yeah. I think there's little things. I think there's little things like, okay, we're going to play what we play, but maybe we'll just work on a better way of disguising certain things pre-snap, because we're playing fast. We're up front, they maintaining gap integrity. They're, those backers are, reading guards and pulling. And if Texas is, I haven't watched Texas like that, but I'm just giving an overview. Their sound like that. Then there's just other things you tweak, like, hey, he's lined up here. They may stem right before the snap, and to get back to where they go. It's just.
I almost wish there were, because like I said, on offense, truly. On offense, and I've always said this, if I can't be up big at halftime, I don't know that I'd rather be tied. I probably always want to be down, but within reach, only because it's so much easier to coach to the adjustments when you're making mistakes. When you're that team and you're way out in front,
Yeah.
a la Alabama, Georgia, right early in the year, it's so hard to coach to things that you're definitively
Yeah,
doing well.
and not just that. I think that it is sometimes out of a coach's hand. It's now the maturity of the football team. Now it's the
Yeah.
type of team you have, because we can say all we want, but even as a coach, I know what it feels like going into the locker room down by 20. I know what it feels like going, it's like I'm tied, and I know what it feels like being up big. And those are all different moods depending on who the team is as well. You're the opposing team. So like there is ways that you have to find and scenarios you have to create. Like people always talk about, okay, you're up and you want to hold on to the ball, 4-minute offense. That clock gets to 4:15, 4:20. Okay, let's start running out 4-minute offense, which means you're trying to hold on to the ball, whatever. But some of those principles on a bigger scale apply. Not necessarily you're playing slow, but you still have to probably run more of your base stuff that you're good at, the stuff that you're good at, day one stuff that if we do maybe miss one assignment, we're still going to be successful in the execution of the play rather
Yeah.
than, doing what maybe stuff we probably implemented that week of specifically for that defense. But there's there are always tweaks from week to week, but then there's still your base stuff, the stuff that you're comfortable in case your weekly install goes to lack of a better word, you can come back to that
Yeah.
and go from there. So it's just, I think it differs from team to team and staff to staff, man. But yeah, so I mean, so Texas on a bye, they're on a bye. Yeah, well, I'm gonna talk about us now, and thank God we're on our second bye this week, and it put me in a bad mood. I mean, I lashed out at people. I don't care. I'm not apologizing because you know what season it is, and it's just I'm emotional. People that know me know how I feel. Now, I'm gonna start off by saying Kansas played well, man. They played so good. Kansas State was ranked 16th. And before I get into the game, another shout out to Coach Kleiman. I talked about him last week about if I had anything bad to say about K-State, but it'll never be about Coach Kleiman. Man, Coach Kleiman got up there post game and he talked about like how great this game was, how he felt going in that Kansas was the best 2-5 team in the country, which yeah, that's a compliment, but it's just we need to be on our P's and Q's. That's kind of, but like he talked
I would
about,
agree with that.
yeah, and he talked about he hated that someone had to lose this game. He said, because he said basically we're one kick away from this being, me and Coach Leipold being in different, situations or different post game interviews. Literally one kick away, and that is, and I think, and I'll say this: 16 straight wins against Kansas. And people say that's a rivalry, and now you say, well, you've lost 16 straight times. That's not a rivalry, but I will agree with that notion. There's still the hate there. And I don't know what it is, man. And this is not a knock on K-State, but it's just it's something that Kansas has got to get over. It's a hump, and I'm gonna tell you, when I was there, we didn't beat them. We were 0-4. Now Kansas was the K-State that we played against was a top 10, top 8 Kansas State team. Now, I say all that to say you think about programs like Oklahoma, Texas, other traditional Big 12 teams that Kansas has had victories over the spread of time, which I think Oklahoma, Texas are better football programs than Kansas State. Even if you took the overall record, I mentioned that Kansas still has the overall record now. It's 60 to 65 to 52 now, whatever. But like, I mean, just like traditionally, and even Missouri going back, we only lost one time to Missouri when I played there, and Missouri has had their ups and downs in SEC, but they're thriving in the last 2 years, as a program. So like, not to take nothing away from K-State, man, but ranked 16th, I thought we were the better team. And that's not hyperbole. That's not me just saying because I'm a Jayhawk. When we stepped on the field, man, we came out and we played in Manhattan. And when the game started, I didn't know how it was gonna go or feel because K-State is always hard. It's tough to beat at home. We came out and I thought
For
Jalen
some
Daniels did a
people.
good job. Yeah. I thought Jalen Daniels did a great job managing the game. 95% only because the mistakes that he did make were costly at that certain moment, and that's still hamstringing us. Devin Neal gets hurt on a weird play early in the game on a swing pass. This could be it right here. Guy tries to rip the ball from him, maybe partially separates his shoulder or hurts him. He fumbles, but he recovers it. But he's out. Okay, so I think the next play or 2 plays later, Savion Morrison comes in and has a great run, dip and bounce, and gets around the corner and scores. So I've always talked about, I like that we're at least 3 deep on running backs, that guys can make plays and go do special things. And he's a bigger guy, and thank God we'll have him back next year. But I thought we came out and we were aggressive. We dropped the big pass. Q Skinner dropped the big pass, but I mean, if you look at it, we came out, we took the lead 7-0. K-State came back and answered. Now, when we talked about just talking bad ball, when K-State ties the game up, they kick off, and God help him, I'm not going to say his name. He Croft, I think is his last name, on 29. He feels the kickoff and he steps out at the 1-yard line. Now, we all know that's a big no-no, but, when you're trying to make a play, and I thought Coach Leipold did a great job, because post-game somebody tried to really, really point the kid out, and, he says, well, I'm not going to knock a kid for trying to make a play. He lost his awareness in the relevance of where he was on the field. I can take that. I know Coach Leipold protects his players, but on the other end of it, that is a critical mistake, because it gave Kansas the ball on the 1-yard line, which ultimately led to a safety. Okay, so now we're down to Kansas State gets the ball because we got kickoff, obviously, and they respond. So now we're down 16-7 at halftime, which at worst should be 14-7. Okay, so we come back out. K-State didn't, would they score? Did we score? I had it on here. We come out and we score and we answer. Luke Grimm, and also on a side note with Luke Grimm leads the nation in targets and catches. I think it's 55 straight targets and he's got catches on him, like that, the percentage. I think he leads, and that was a tidbit I saw somewhere. I always find these things. But anyway, we come back, we answer with
It's a bad play call. It looks like a bad play call on Kansas on the one. As I'm watching it again
for the safety,
it looks like it's not a great play call.
Yeah, and just there aren't very many on the 1-yard line. I mean, it's just mano a mano. Try to get some space, whether you're, and this is another thing too. You think about it, and it differs from team to team. Or how much do we practice on the center? There are situations, scenarios for it, but how much do we really practice on the center? We're in the gun. I'm kind of on the fence, but that's what we do. You got to do what we got to do. You can't let certain situations in the game, because you prepare for them all. You can't let them change what you do, because then it could have been a fumble, snap, and a touchdown. So I mean, what a celebration. I'm not going to go into that, but anyway, so we come back. It's 14-16. K-State runs back, and I'm gonna tell you, as much as I'm not trying to be negative, but it just is what it is. As much hoopla that the Avery Johnson kid, the quarterback, has gotten, I thought Kansas did a good job of making him look very mediocre. I mean, they ran a lot of stick plays, just low, high percentage, but short passes, which you do.
You say hoopla, what do you mean? And I only ask that because
he came with a lot of hype that he's, last year, towards the end of the last season, he started like the last 3 or 4 games, made some big splashes, and coming into this year, they were high on him that he can, basically win games on his own as far as like his ability. He can run the ball. He has good feet, but as far as quarterbacking and throwing the ball, making those throws, he is not that guy. And I thought what scheme and the plan that we had, we forced him to make those throws, and he couldn't, and he didn't. So he pulled it down a lot. And then Kansas State, play calling wise, had to just go to the short right there. That should have been a pass interference. I don't know what you think on it. Even the guy, I forgot, on ESPN, that goes right before halftime, and that's a turnover against Jalen. But I'm mad at the throw because he was double covered, but I thought that was pass interference. That wasn't uncatchable. How could it be uncatchable if the guy's pushing him down, impeding his ability to get the ball? You're not gonna get that call in Manhattan. So it leads to no damage, but that's the difference between 16 or 14 to 21 to 16. So, and Kansas State got the ball in the second half. So, nevertheless. So I just thought overall, man, I thought they did a good job just playing hard. And look at that. I mean, now they called that, but that was blatant. I mean, when you just cheat, you just cheat. I mean, that was like second nature to that kid. Anyway, so if you look at the numbers are not gonna say that this was okay. One team was just overwhelmingly better. Obviously, on paper, 6-1 Kansas versus 2-5 Kansas State. Obviously, I'm sorry, versus 2-5 Kansas at the time. 23 first downs Kansas had to 22 K-State's first down. The difference in total yards of offense was 78 yards. K-State went for 479. Kansas went for 401. I mean, you said it. We talked about it. What was going to be the difference between the win and the loss? It was going to be the turnover battle. And we lost it. We had 2 turnovers to their 1. And even, oh my gosh, even late in the game, K-State goes for a field goal, and this kid all of a sudden pulls a career high or ties his career long. Only in that game will he make that. So it's just not to say that everything that could go wrong went wrong, but definitely
it's a rivalry game, and
it is
kind of what you'll expect in that kind of scenario.
And I just really felt that our guys should have won that game. They played well enough to win that game, and they should have won that game. And K-State escapes. And I'm sorry. They're not a 16th ranked team. They're not. And or are we just better than what our record is? Like, say, to Coach Kleiman's
I think they are a 16th ranked team, but what I think is within that, I think there is a wide gap between the number one, the top 6 teams in the country and everybody else.
Yeah.
So once and then I think there's another gap, probably right around that 10 to 12 number. I think there's another gap. Yeah. So I think once when you're in that bottom,
I'll agree with that. But when you're ranked 16th with only 1 loss, that means that somebody maybe caught you slipping, or and I don't follow them like that. I can't think off the top of my head who their 1 losses to, but I look at this game, and they were, Kansas was a 10-point underdog. We lost ultimately 29-27, but I think it came down to like 3 or 4 things. You think about the 2 points. You think about the kickoff being fielded on the 1-yard line, which led to that safety. You think about Devin Neal's shoulder being an issue where you couldn't run him as much as you wanted to, even though he did make plays, but they used him very sparingly. They didn't want to maybe worsen the injury. Just sometimes you're so good that when you're just on the field, your presence creates distraction. It creates accountability. Jalen Daniels did a good job, man. We all know I love Jalen Daniels, but you can't run him 15 to 20 times a game just because he's a quarterback with good legs, but he's not.
You can't say it. I'll say because he'll give it up.
Yeah, right? and he did. And so I think it came down to that. And even late in the game, we get pressure on defense. Marvin Grant Jr. made 2 key plays, sacks. He even almost caused an interception where it went right to our D tackle, DJ Winters, and he bobbles it, and drops it. And I mean that just those few things were the difference in that game. But like say, it ultimately came down to the turnover battle, or even maybe that pass interference not being called or that safety. So I mean, hats off to Coach Leipold and his staff, because those kids played hard. I mean, ultimately you're facing a season with no postseason, no bowl in sight. But I mean, they didn't lay down. And I mean, golly, oh my gosh. And we didn't talk at all that day. We didn't talk at all that day because I mean, what coulda, shoulda, woulda, and people that just watch ball games and don't know, oh, y'all lost again, 16 straight, lost against Kansas State. But it's so many things, and that's in every game, not just the game I'm talking about just because I have so many close ties to it, but that's just in everything, man. Like every game, there's always something that you can go back and say that was why. And not all the time, because sometimes teams just get washed and they get blown out like y'all just wasn't good enough. That was not the case where, oh, K-State was just so, ultimately better than Kansas on the field. That it's been like that at times, but Kansas was the better football team.
We got to come up with we got to come up with a better word. I think rivalry is one of the most overused.
Yeah. Well, that's why I mentioned it when you say if it's 16 straight, it's not.
Yeah, because I like Texas, Oklahoma. That's a rivalry.
Yeah.
Texas and Texas ain't. That's not a hammer can't have a rivalry with a nail. You just can't. Right?
Bang.
No, but if I'm trying to avoid throwing a shot at Kansas, but same thing, right?
No, in that situation, yeah. I mean,
you can't lose overwhelmingly right? And thank God that I'll be able to keep this, air of superiority, because we've probably missed that window where A&M would have probably been able to,
Yeah.
close the gap and make it a rivalry. Well, should have played. I shouldn't have been scared.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
you're right, but there's so many things that do play, because we think about this. You and I, when I've been talking to you and your boys, y'all are obviously younger than me. So just to use Dallas Cowboys as an example, I was alive to see when they went on their run. So that
right.
history is in my head. Some of these kids were like babies or not
You know what I'm
even
saying?
born yet
Yeah.
when when that happened. So their earliest recollection of Cowboys is Tony Romo, he
Right.
caught it, whatever. And mine's is, I mean, I can go even further back, Tom Landry. So like, and so I think leading into this, as far as history, proximity of the schools, what was how the rivalry was created, and you just keep that because college football is still a traditional, type sport. So you keep it, but like you said, I do agree with that. Worried about the rivalry, but like I say, 16 straight, losses to Kansas State. But we have the overall, in numbers, wins to losses. Like only you or a 16-year-old. It says, golly, Kansas, they gonna never beat Kansas State because that's all they seen. Where I know historically Kansas has been at times a more superior program, and I know the history of Coach Snyder coming and building Kansas State to be what it is
Oh, y'all
today. And
ain't, y'all ain't even beat Ron Prince.
I think we did. I have to go. Well, 07, 08 was the last one. So if he was
Okay.
there then, that was that was then. And that was also the Orange Bowl team, or the team after the Orange Bowl. But it's just, I'm proud of my Jayhawks, man, and I'm gonna end it on that. But at the end of the day, it's still another loss. And this Big 12 is driving me crazy. But before we get into that predictions, check out this Chalk Talk real quick. Okay, we want to talk about the shallow concept real quick, and it's a popular air raid route. It's used in most offenses when it comes to downfield passing. Has a lot of options, has a lot of different things you can do with it. Gives the quarterback freedom to take a shot, or if the shot's not there, then they can, check down and go through their progression and read the triangle, if you will. So real quick, left to right, you got a fade or some type of vertical. We'll get into the variations of that. Most outside release, a more route. Here is the shallow right here, which is ran at the heels of the D line. You don't look for the ball till you pass the center. Here you have the 10-yard dig. Outside release on this read player. We'll get more into it in a second. And then you got the skinny post, bang eight, whatever your terminology or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so pre-snap, quarterback's going to look, see what he likes on the outside for the vertical, see where the safety is, or he could even look at the post. Pre-snap, he has an idea what side he's going to go to. Post-snap, he's going to peek the safeties. If those safeties widen or take a step deep, he's coming right now to this guy to make his read to see where he's going to go. Okay, so this Sam linebacker, this safety, whatever you want to call it, this is the read. So this dig right here is so important. He's got an outside release. It is important. He's got an outside release no matter what, to get this guy to either widen, to try to reroute him, to get his shoulders turned, and he's going to peek right here. If this safety or this read player widens or tries to carry this vertical route, he's going to the shallow right now. Okay. If he tries to maybe just jam and sit and turn inside and look at that shallow coming to him, then he's going to go right to his second option, which would be the dig right here. He should find the hole, find grass. Obviously, if he's sitting, it's probably not man. It's probably zone, so you'll be able to find some grass. For some reason, if they do drop to a one high or come down here and rob him, or even use a rat player to rob underneath, then he's going to go to the flat route, which is the third read in the progression. That could be a flat route. That can even be a swing route, depending on how you have it designed, okay? All right, here we go. We got some Washington State, Coach Leach. All right, 2x2 right here at the top. They just switch it. The X is running the follow, and the H or the whatever you tag him or position him is running the vertical. Down here, we talked about it. Try to get an outside release. This guy widens, but he just being a football player and he finds grass, finds a hole, boom. All right, we have some LSU right here, 2019 National Championship year. Here we go, got motion. Check with me. Play action, same deal. They switch. The X runs the shallow, and the tight end, offline tight end, is running like a corner, some version of a vertical push, though, a vertical route, if you will. Down here, you see outside release on the dig. Texas is running some type of Tampa 2, cut 2, where they're trying to maybe rob on this number 2 receiver. But that inside receiver does a good job of getting outside release and settling, finding grass, and finding the soft spot of that defense. It's like a Tampa 2. You've got that middle deep player right there. Got his back turned to him. Finds the soft spot. All right. Next play, next look. Right here, 3x1. Trips 3x1. And he's in a cut. He's in a cut position, which means he's just cut his split down shorter, closer to the O-line. And obviously that's for a reason. Here we go. Same deal. And this is a little confusing because either they're being tempoed or Texas is having trouble getting lined up, or they're just standing around not trying to give a look, so you would mess up his read. But ultimately, he reads this guy right here and determines whether he's going to hit that shallow right now. We're going to get an outside release by the number 2 receiver for the dig. Now, the vertical that's usually down here is going to come from over here, which still holds these safeties to stay back and not get beat deep. And, of course, we got the vertical at the top. Here we go. Texas doesn't get lined up. Finds grass. Finds a soft spot. Same deal. 1 to 2, 3 right here. You could, however you want to do it, it's still the triangle, okay? You got a vertical that's getting back over here, and you've got a vertical going there. All right. Hope you enjoyed that chalk talk on the shallow route concept. All right, man. Here we are. We're to it. Let's recap how
I keep telling y'all, all you got to do is get in with me.
I'm telling you know what? I don't care. I don't need the sympathy. I'll stand on my own. I'll walk alone. I don't care what y'all say. My picks were right. This Big 12 this year, I love it in the sense of, just you never know what could happen.
But your picks weren't right.
But my picks, it's making me look bad, but I don't care. I don't care. Because nobody would have thought that Houston would beat Utah. Nobody. I don't care what problems Utah was having. That was, I would like to go back and see what the percentage and the line was.
Historically, here's how I look at games like that. And I kind of allude to it some weeks in the SEC. I think Arkansas, Mississippi State will be one of those games. You have teams that aren't getting over the hump, but they're not getting just, mollywopped week after week up and down. You see, we always talk about this. We talked about this a lot early in the season because we were trying to figure out where Kansas was going to fall on the spectrum. Because I always say, or I'd always heard, teams go from losing big to losing small. Then you win small. Then you start to win big, right? So Houston is, kind of fits into that losing small bucket. And along Mississippi State, same thing. And that lose before the season is over, Mississippi State is going to win a game that they're not supposed to win. And
Well,
ultimately probably be a spoiler.
Yeah,
right?
that was Houston's game. Then.
And Houston, same way, where you have a Utah team that's not at full strength, can't do all the things that they do, and you just happen to play up to, who you can be when you're playing on that upper end of your capability. And kind of probably the same thing with Texas Tech, right? And TCU. TCU is playing on the upper end, because I watched quite a bit of that game. TCU is playing on the upper end of their output for the year.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and with that's well said. I agree. But like, you look at it, and that, I mean, it all ties in, man. And you got to look at everything, because I look at it like, say, okay, Kansas last week, but like, say, if you know ball and you watch things, and not just me being a fan, because Coach Kleiman said it, he's the best 2-5 team in the nation in his opinion. And Kansas beats Houston 42-40. Oh, I saw you roll your eyes, punk. What? You don't want to give us. You don't want to give us nothing.
First of all, no. What did I say when you?
You said you agree with it. You agree with it. Yeah, but
what did I say when you said it? I said it's probably true.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
I also don't put a lot of stock in that, because that's what the hell the coach supposed to say.
I know,
because if Kansas State is being honest, if Chris Kleiman was being honest, he probably says that
to not make him overlook the team. I understand why he said
overlook the team, but you come out and you say that he said that post game.
No, he said that going into the game, that he
felt like his Kansas, Monday presser.
He said he felt Kansas was the best 2-5 team. Yeah. And then after the game, he reiterated, but then he added on, like, this game was so good, he hated that someone had to lose. Now, maybe he had to say that being diplomatic, or maybe he may say that
you say that because you don't want to, because
but I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to even address it though.
You don't have to even address it though. You know where he didn't say that shit? He didn't go back on that Monday when they watched that film and say that.
Oh, no doubt. But
he said we played terrible. We played below our standard.
Yeah, well,
and the game shouldn't have been close. I know that's what he said, because that's what every coach says because that's how you feel. That's your team.
But whether it's true or not, you've got to send that message, whether it's true or not. You know what I'm saying? You got to say, you've got to say that. There's certain things you got to say that you don't know how you're working your team, in the press, because kids read everything, and I don't want to give too many secrets out on how you do that. So I'm going to move on. But I was saying before you interrupted me, rolling your eyes about my Jayhawks. Kansas beats Houston 42-14 convincingly, whereas they didn't even sniff them. And then next week they come out and beat Utah. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't know. Like, I don't know.
And that's what makes the Big 12 fun.
But that's what I'm saying. 2-5.
I don't think the Big 12 is a good conference, but I think it's fun. Yeah. And that's what makes it fun. That all the teams. Hold on, don't get.
I'm not gonna. I'm already pissed off. I'm already pissed off. Just finish saying what you're gonna say.
Because we both know that if you stack this conference up top to bottom, versus one, you're not winning any games at the top
this year.
You're not winning any games at the top against the Big Ten, or the SEC. Probably not even the ACC in the way they're playing right now.
That's a stretch.
You might once you get to the middle.
Miami, Pittsburgh, and who was the other team? Clemson. After that, it's a drop.
That's the top. That's what I'm saying. So
I mean, he's saying 3, but you can name more than 3 in the SEC opposed and in the Big Ten opposed to, because I'm not a Big Ten guy. Ohio State, first of all, Oregon,
those two,
Indiana.
Those two conferences are in a league of their own. That doesn't count. I'm saying, like, okay, ACC is probably the third best conference, and there's a huge gap between 2 and 3, right? Between the Big Ten or SEC, whichever, because they're interchangeable, to be honest. But there's a huge gap.
Thing you said this year.
There's a huge gap between, and however it matches up. Who knows? That may end up being true, may not. But there's a huge gap between that and the ACC. And then I think not a huge gap, but I think there's a significant gap between the ACC and the Big 12, because BYU's the best of the Big 12 right now.
Yeah, BYU and Iowa State. BYU and Iowa State.
BYU and Iowa State, and Colorado and K-State probably
Yeah,
2 and
how
3
about
and
it?
4.
And that's what I'm
Right?
saying. And I'll say that. I will say that. And I will say
BYU's not beating Clemson. BYU's not beating Miami.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know
BYU
who.
now when we start talking about Pitt, maybe where's the game at, etc. You know, and when you start,
BYU
but
probably
even
not
when
beating
you get to
Miami
the middle,
or
because
Clemson.
Duke is a middle of the road ACC team. SMU at 22 was a middle of the road ACC team.
Yeah, and
They're probably at the top of the Big 12.
I don't know. I don't know. You could say that because the way it's fallen, but nobody would have said that going in based on what everybody had. Some teams are performing the way they're supposed to, and it's
Well,
going like I'm just saying, like,
measure it? Do we look at
I'm
do
just
we
saying
have to look at what happened at the beginning of the year whenever there were those cross-functional matchups, and
it just happens. It
in the
happens every
postseason?
year. Yeah, well, I say to say this, it happens every year. I look at it like in three different groups. There's a group that wherever they're put, whether it's high or low, they're performing the way they're supposed to. They're taking care of business. Whether it's wins and it's losses. Then there's the middle of the road teams where you kind of don't know. They've got some preseason. Michigan would be one of those teams where they had all of that in the beginning, and they took a big loss to y'all. They lost to Illinois, but they still have a winning season, winning record right now. So like the middle of the road. But now there's teams that you wasn't even accounting for or even thinking about. And I think, like BYU is one of those teams. I think they were picked like 13th or 14th in the Big 12.
Indiana, absolutely.
And I say, and it's hard to say and just give those ranks because it's like, what are the other variables that play into it? Injury, I mean, I'm not going to use Kansas. I'll take Kansas out of it because we're just shooting ourselves and underachieving right now. It's not because we lost our quarterback like we did the last 2 years. So like there's so many things. So I mean, I don't know. Is it favorable schedule? Like we don't pay attention. I have to go look at it. I like to see a SMU, like the schedule, like who's a team that was really that far away that they beat, that was, maybe here and they were here and they just beat their tail and they continue to do it. I don't know if their schedule is favorable or not. Have they played Clemson yet? Will they round robin it in the ACC?
No, I think it's too many teams again.
Okay. So do they play the Miamis and the Clemsons,
I think the ACC is still on divisions. If
I thought they all went to, I don't know. We don't care about
that.
But yeah, I think it's either way, but I'll take it because I'll say we're underachieving. I think the Big 12 as a conference is underachieving. And I know, we joke about it, and I hate Texas for some of the smugness. Like, y'all went to the SEC and y'all are thriving. But I tell you what, Oklahoma didn't add any value to the conference.
They didn't. But if I'm being deadly honest, and it's going to sound like a shot, those of us that were ingrained in it and watch Oklahoma every day in every sport, you knew this was coming. They were not SEC ready in football. They're not SEC ready in men's basketball. They're not SEC ready in baseball. They're only SEC ready, and that's why you won't find a bigger champion of women's sports than the fans of Oklahoma.
Softball, girls basketball.
They are only SEC ready in softball. They will be middle of the road in women's basketball. They're not beating South Carolina. They're not beating Texas.
They're not beating Ole Miss. They're not beating. Yeah,
correct.
There's a lot of people they're not beating.
There you start to see, because their pace is really a factor. It's like tempo in football. It does make a difference and account for some things. But I am not no fan outside of Norman, and if James is a really good friend of mine and loves Oklahoma, and he's probably the only one, he saw this coming. He knew they were going to underperform this year. I think where he's starting to get wide-eyed,
realistic about it,
where he's starting to get wide-eyed is they're not even laying the foundation to change it.
It's not even close.
You know what I mean? Like, at least Texas, like, we were struggling under Steve in the beginning, but you saw the offensive line recruits changing. You saw the defensive line changing. So you were like, okay, by the time we make this move, we're going to be ready. They're still recruiting. They still got to get the kids in the door. They don't even have the bodies along the offensive and defensive lines right now to develop to be there. So they're 4 years away. Every year they don't get the body. So Yeah, I'm not at all surprised by that. And they
Yeah.
couldn't they couldn't
And-
even afford it. We had to loan them the money.
bang, bang.
They
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
they broke. They broke.
He's talking about
Damn money.
Oklahoma, by the way.
They told you Barry Switzer was just on TV. He was like, I don't know how we're gonna compete because there's not enough money in Oklahoma as compared to Texas. We knew that.
Well, yeah, that's an obvious statement. And and it's tough, man. And it's tough because I feel for coaches because nobody signs up to coach to lose, and
True.
I know they got rid of their OC this past didn't they change? Did they fire their OC?
Latrell, yeah.
Yeah,
Let him go.
this past week. I actually know Seth played against them when he was at OU and I was at KU, and actually he was on the Coach Mangino regime at Kansas, and he was player personnel. Then he coached on the field. I got a chance to know him before I left there. So yeah, I just hate things. That's the business, and
You can make it his fault,
Yeah.
but it ain't. The
Yeah.
wins and losses won't change.
Yeah,
They won't.
yeah.
There's no game they lost that if
you said that it was just
change,
bad. Yeah, it was just bad play calling.
You don't have the bodies. If I can't hold up,
Yeah,
I don't care who it is.
yeah.
Barry
It's tough.
Switzer
Yeah,
couldn't make this
was it
Oklahoma team.
5 receivers,
Yeah.
4 receivers, 5
Right.
receivers.
5 receivers.
So yeah, well, we're not gonna focus on them, but yeah. So we say all that to say,
Speaking of 5, I went 5-1 last week.
Yeah, touche. He did. Easy picks. They're easy picks, man. Now I'll tell you what easy. LSU A&M was a great game. That wasn't an easy pick. You're gonna pick Texas even against Jesus's team, so that's an obvious pick. The other ones, and he's got another week. He's got another week of easy picks. They're passing.
I'll tell you what,
the SEC is passing UMass around. No, I don't want you to make my damn picks for me. No, SEC is passing UMass around like a. You know what? You look at me in the. They're passing around. First, Missouri got to beat up on them. Now, who gets to beat up on them this week?
UMass don't care. They're getting a check.
They're
getting a check every time they travel. This is probably the most lucrative athletic season they done had in a long time. Man. They don't care.
But yeah,
looking ahead, just like the pass arounds, they're getting a check. They don't care. They don't care.
But that's not right. But it's funny. Anyway, so going this week, KU is on their second bye week. Now I'll tell you what, if Houston upsets Kansas State, I'm just gonna stop making picks. I'll be happy. That'd be the reason. But I'm gonna stop. Huh?
Texas Tech's gonna beat Iowa State.
I don't agree. Scatterboo can't be stopped. That TCU Baylor game, that's a wash. That's a Baylor's starting to get their legs under them a little bit. I don't know. I think sometimes Baylor, the little bit I've watched them, I've watched probably 2 or 3 games. They suffering a little sometimes from the same thing that KU suffers from, shoot themselves in the foot. They're not terrible. They're not just bad roster wise, but drop balls, turnovers, things like that. So those are my picks. Now my highlighted games: Penn State, Ohio State. And I'm gonna kind of group them together. So North Carolina and Florida State is. I never like talking about this, but I think this is a program shifting type game, depending on if Florida State loses in a bad manner. Just talking business wise. North Carolina is, I think, 4-4.
Why is that? Because why is 1-8 worse than 1-7?
Because it's continuous. And I say if they lose big to a 4-4 North Carolina, because it's not like you're playing 8-1 Clemson or whatever. I think that breaks
in
another.
Mac I trust.
Yeah, and always. I think, which is ridiculous for me to say, but number 3 versus number 4, Penn State, Ohio State, it's gonna put Ryan Day under a certain type of pressure because, like we just talked about earlier, he averages 12 wins a season, but those
3 losses this year would
what I'm saying
puts you in the danger zone.
The Michigan, the conference championships, and Penn State.
Well, if you
games
lose
like that,
this one, this would be 2 conference losses.
That's what I'm saying.
Probably don't even get to the Big Ten championship
just because of what the tone is there. I'm not saying he's doing a terrible job because damn, you're number 4 in the nation. I'm just saying what the tone is in Columbus.
But here's the thing, and I can say this as a fan ingrained in a difficult fan base, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Very accurate. Yes.
I will defend the fan base of Ohio State a little bit in the sense of you have to start looking at what's our standard. Our standard is not 12 wins and competing for championships. Our standard is championships, both conference championships and national championships. So when you kind of start to reset the bar, because under Jim Harbaugh, even that Big Ten championship started to get a little further and a little further away, which then you get in the playoffs, and then, okay, national championship is getting a little further and a little further away. So then you start to say, okay, I've got to evaluate, do I have the guy? How do I know if I have the guy? Let's give him everything he wants.
Yeah.
We gave him everything. We gave him the most expensive roster in college football. We gave him the best coaching staff in college football. So as a fan, if you don't get it done this year, I kind of have to believe what my eyes are telling me, and it's that you won't ever get there.
Yeah.
Because what other year
you plateaued? You plateaued. Yeah, you plateaued.
What other year will you have the best roster in college football?
Yeah, as sexy as it looks.
Football.
It's like,
so it sounds crazy because, again, fire a coach that is 1-12 that could very well end up winning 12 games this year is crazy.
Yeah.
Except there.
Yeah.
Except at Texas. Except at Alabama, except at LSU.
And it is a stretch.
The standard.
Yeah, it is a stretch to call that a standard because winning is hard. And expectation of fan base, I think, is more a stern expectation as far as like standard. You know what you want the standard to be, but you don't always get to control those things. And let's just, I don't even want to put the jinx out there, but like if a team that's as good as the top 3 teams in the nation, and they lose in a dramatic fashion that's like it's a anomaly where like, dang, that won't happen in 100 more college football games,
right?
But you see it with your eyes. But like I say, the standard is still, we should be undefeated, or we should be this. I don't care how you lost. That's when it becomes like, that's ridiculous. That this,
and it's some bad beats in there, right? You're gonna look back on that Oregon loss and you'll be like, one, we lost a game that was literally whoever had the ball last. That team legitimately had to cheat to beat me.
Yeah. And they're gonna say, how could you let your quarterback slide?
Right.
And you've got to like,
so
you can't, but
I'll defend that fan base. Looking at the SEC, since you say it's so easy, I picked 3 underdogs this week versus the spread. I'm taking Arkansas versus Ole Miss. I'm taking Vandy versus Auburn. And I'm taking South Carolina versus A&M. So that's just,
you think that's the underdog?
That's just gonna reflect as expertise when we look back at this.
Really, is the Vandy Auburn pick so risky?
They're the underdog, David. Vegas says it's risky. Whatever. But they're on the road. This is still, first of all, again, credit to them. They're in a different place this year, but you're still dealing with a team that don't have a lot of experience winning on the road. Winning, period. But definitely winning on the road, finishing tough games, because I don't believe that Auburn is going to lay down.
No.
Right? That's just not their MO. Oklahoma will
Why you didn't pick Maine? Why you didn't pick Maine?
Hey, don't think I didn't think about it. I was like, let me see if they can score. If Maine was averaging about 35 points a game or more, I probably would have took them. Because that means they would have put up about 17, and that's about all you need versus Oklahoma these days.
That's crazy.
I think the Georgia game's going to be close. Mississippi State's going to win.
Yeah, somewhat of a rivalry game, that Florida-Georgia game, somewhat,
Yeah,
I mean by tradition,
they're getting on the edge.
Yeah, but by tradition,
But Dan Mullen won that game. Dan Mullen won that game when he was at Florida, so it hasn't been that long. I'm telling you, watch out for Florida cutting Billy Napier loose and calling Kurt Signetti. That's bad for all the college football. So I'm begging Indiana to get in their pocketbook and keep that man there. I have never been a fan of a become a fan of a coach so fast in my life. And you know me, I talk big ish. So does he. So he was right, man. He was my kind of guy. He was like, no, we're not staying there all day. We're gonna fly in, sleep late, kick their ass, and go home. And then they asked him last week when they got to 8-0, and they were like, how does it feel? Because when you come in, your first job is just to compete. He said, oh shit, I'm here to win. I said, all right, you got me. You got me. I'm a fan. But no, I look at Florida. You look at those kind of places. I think Florida will have their pick, and I think Dion would listen. I think Kurt Signetti would listen, and I think either one of those two guys, I think, become bad news for college football. So IU, get it done, extend that man.
And that all circles back to the benefit of Texas. So tell me about your highlighted games.
Oregon and Michigan. Michigan gets another swing at an elite opponent in the Big House. I feel something in my spirit that's just telling me that Michigan is going to rise to the occasion.
Wow.
Oregon is really good. Oregon is really fast. Oregon reminds me of us in how they play and how they win on the edge. I don't think Oregon as good as Texas was defensively. So I think Michigan is going to be able to control the line of scrimmage a little bit better than they did against us, which leads to keep away. And I don't care how good your offense is, you can't score if you don't got the ball.
Oh yeah.
So I think they have some early success in that game. And when you do that and you're at home, anything can happen. I love Duke. You guys know how I feel about Malik Murphy. I'm a huge Manny Diaz fan. Know him personally from his time at Texas. He is a quality person. And I don't think Miami's that good. I'm just being honest. I think they are a team that's a bit overinflated, but they haven't played a schedule that has been able to pull that out of them yet. They've had too many close games against what we know are bad teams. So Duke is not a bad team. Duke is a smart team. Duke is a physical team. They can't score as much as I would like them to outright pick them, because I think Duke's only averaging like 22, 23 points a game, which is terrible. If they were around 27, 30, I'd pick them and wouldn't think about it. But I think they're going to force Miami into some mistakes, because we know Cam Ward will make mistakes because he's a big play guy. So I'm looking at both of those games. If I can get one, I've got Oregon, Miami, and then obviously there will be a loser of the Ohio State Penn State game. If I can get two or more of those teams to lose, Texas again will win the bye week. And I love it.
At least
it
next
all
week,
rounds back to the same thing, maybe.
I know at least next week we'll both come on here coming off a bye win. I'm thinking
what's a win for Cam? What's a win for? Well, hell, nothing really. I guess.
Well, yeah, if Houston beats K-State, that's a win.
Okay,
we beat Houston.
Okay.
You know how they have those. It's better than such and such. They beat them, but you lost to them. So, but take it how I can get it. But I don't beg for nothing. But I will be excited to see Coach Kolanecki's innovative offense on a big stage in this game. And I think it's
gonna be fun. I think they're gonna score a lot. I think they're gonna score a lot. I think it's gonna be. I think the over under when I saw it was 57, and I'd take that.
Wow,
I'd take that. I think each team's gonna be in the 30s. I really do.
Oh, well, we'll be watching, man. So we got it. Yeah, it's Halloween. We had to. And I try to stay in, theme, some classic, Halloween greats, but I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. Look forward to next week. We will be back, appreciate the feedback. Keep subscribing, spreading the word, man. As always, rock chalk.
Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.
All right, see y'all.